We have to speak about the video for Take On Me.
That's not punishment.
Isn't it?
No, no, no.
I mean, you've spoken about it probably many times.
Yeah. There's nothing you can do with me here in terms of the history of the band or whatever that I haven't done a number of times. Because it's been 25 years and so if we were talking 1988 and you asked me about Take On Me, that would be punishment.
I see, yeah.
Because there's been such a massive wave that, and you're completely fed up with everything, you know, that relating to that particular success, which was manifold and massive, and it was talked to death. So at that time, in the end, we all were completely sick of it, which is only natural. It's not because you don't like the song; it's you're sick of repeating yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But then now, so much else has happened. So, you know, it's so long ago, and so many other things have happened in between that we have. I think. Well, I certainly have fond memories of. Even though we are still being asked the same questions about that particular video, obviously because it was pivotal. It was instrumental in a number of ways.
And groundbreaking.
And that's been said too. And in some ways, I guess it was. I think the only regret is when you have success like that, is that you don't really get to prove that you would have been successful without it.
Mm-hmm.
That
is
is
hypothetical.
It's a strange kind of thing. So, and it's a silly way to go in your mind as well, because you won't be. But a lot of people say that it wouldn't have happened had it not been for this or whatever. And you will always have that,
mm-hmm.
which is the only thing you would have wanted to. I've many times wished that we came out as a band before videos started to become important,
mm-hmm.
Which was exactly when we started. At that point, this was a new thing, and it was about to happen, and there was no way around it. So we attacked it in our way, and made use of it and made it interesting the best way we could back then at that point of time, or point in time. I would have liked to have been a band, for instance, in the 10, 15 years earlier,
mm-hmm.
20 years earlier for that sake, where the focus would be much more on audio, so to speak, much more than it was in our time. And that visual, focusing on visuals has just become stronger and stronger, really, because it's the most immediate thing of our senses. The sight is very impressive, but hearing, in fact, is more important to have in order to keep for people. The loss of hearing is harder than the loss of sight.
Yeah,
when
absolutely.
you can hear, you are in contact with the world around you emotionally in a way. Much more so when you can talk to people and respond to sounds, and it means more to us, and goes deeper into our system than we tend to think. So I've read, I don't know this because it's not my field, but I've read experts in this state that psychologically it's a heavier strain to you're more isolated from society if you don't hear than if you're blind, and we tend to think the opposite. You tend to think of someone who's blind being shut out.
Yeah.
Well, it's an interesting topic, but we're on Aha now, so.
Well, yeah, but still, I mean, the song, when we speak about the video, did it irritate you in a way that it became successful when it had the video?
And that it didn't.
That it didn't do well in the first
Oh
version?
no! Well, we had. It didn't really happen exactly that way. We had a bum release one of the times, which was kind of a half-hearted release. Not the first one. The first one, all of them were half-hearted compared to the final.
Yeah.
The final was a proper campaign. It was a proper setup. It was everybody working towards an end, and we learned the massive difference between a company that was completely together and had a focus, and a company where that was not the case. So we very quickly saw how important it is to have a record company behind you. Now that may be changing these days, but for different reasons.
Yeah.
But back then, it meant everything, because you have to have a business partner who deals with the other aspects of it. Basically, you can be as good as you can be. Basically, you can be a great artist, but if you don't have good people around you, nothing is ever going to happen, really. And that we learned that fast. So the first release, I can't remember now when we shot the first video. It was the first video that we did was really silly, stupid in some ways, but it was, most of the stuff was cut out, and we were left with a kind of a performance thing. Blue background. We were on like a boxing stage, a boxing ring type of thing, and we were performing. It was very simple. It was just us, very basic, with. But the response showing that was really the first contact we had with an audience, and that was very strong.
Okay.
But there wasn't. People couldn't get. I remember there were demands for the record. The records were not out in the shops. It was kind of falling apart. So they were not really behind it. So we, and it looked really. I mean, we were coming from outside, from the street. We didn't have experience, but we all realized that this is not how you do it. So we were, in some ways, we were lucky to maybe to have a strong enough set of songs, to be a strong enough band, to be kind of hovering between the offices in the record company. This was Warner Brothers. And the problem we have back then is that we are signed to Warner in America, but it's a satellite company through a satellite company in England.
Okay.
This is and then when we were released the first time, which didn't work, it was the English label, not the satellite of the US, but the English label WEA that serviced the record, and they had really no interest in it, because it wasn't their artist. So we fell between chairs, and we had a lukewarm campaign going, or lukewarm response really within the company. The only really campaigning member in this family, so to speak, was the vice president with the satellite company for the US. But he was not in US, he was in England, and so it gave us kind of a weak position.
You must have been confused back then.
Nah, maybe you're confused now, but we lived like that for a while. So
okay.
Well. But that's where it started, and then America picked up on it for real, because we were tumbling around to begin with the English company, not really having much interest in the band. And this is where the 2.5 release is coming from.
I see.
Then, finally, when America in the US started to look at it for real, going with Steve Barron, with Mike Patterson, and the people behind the Take On Me video were gathered. That happened, and then the rest basically is the public history.
Who did the treatment for it? Were you somehow involved?
No, not really. We were presented with it at an fairly early stage as an idea. So in that sense, we were involved, but we were heavily involved in finishing the album. That's where our focus was. And then we were presented with the idea, and we thought it was kind of interesting, because we had been toying with the idea ourselves of doing animation. And this is a type of animation, it's called rotoscope, which which is something that Mike Patterson was doing, and he won an award for a film called Commuter, which were later part of the Train of Thought. That's the Train of Thought video. That's really taken from the Commuter.
Okay.
So the Commuter, the Train of Thought video, is really what started the whole thing. Take On Me was made after. But when he made Computer, he didn't know that it was going to be an a-ha video for our 4th single or something, because he was later on going to make Take On Me.
Right.
So he goes in a kind of circle.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was confusing enough.
No, I understood that.
Yeah.
Do you remember how much it was how much it cost to produce it?
It was expensive, but I don't remember figures. But it was expensive. It was I think about roughly 4 months to produce.
So that's a good proof that there's some faith from the record company in you. They believe.
Oh,
in it.
they believed very strongly in the band. They put the money where their mouth was fully. So there was no backing off in any kind of way. Once they sat with kind of the whole picture, I suppose, and kind of realized, in their words, realized what they had, they went full force with it, and it was a very, very powerful campaign. So well, I mean, it was a lot of hard work in the sense that we were doing an endless amount of little video clips, video interviews for the world, basically for stations, because stations kept popping up. These were the days when all of this were kind of just exploding. It was, and just before then, there weren't really that many stations at all. So it was all changing.
Now, you already talked slightly about it, speaking about the song and about the video. Was there a time when you actually didn't play it live?
Didn't play.
Take On Me live?
Yeah, hundreds of times. If you're talking about television.
No, I mean at live shows on stage.
Well, you have the not real live shows that they've been live, but there's been performances where you've had the typical sing back situations. Or I mean, the first time I performed Take On Me, singing it live. But that was just me. The band was playbacking.
Okay.
Then. That was the Grammy Awards. That was my first stage appearance with a-ha.
Wow.
So,
the Grammy Awards.
So it was a kind of an interesting start. But your question is whether we have
played it in concerts
and not played it live.
Yeah. No, I mean, not played it in concert at all, because you didn't like to play it anymore.
Oh, in that sense. I thought you meant whether we were
technically
playing it live, or I'm sorry, of course that's what you mean. I don't know. I don't know, actually.
Obviously, you still love to play it because you still play it.
You don't need to love to play it. You play it out of respect for people.
Okay.
So people come to an a-ha show, and maybe a-ha was in that town or city 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago, and we're back in and we're playing, and to not play that particular song would be a little hard to justify for people, I think.
Yeah, it's probably like that. Thank God it's not the only one they wanted to hear. There's
of course
50 more.
No, this is it's an easy thing to do, because the show is not evolving around Take On Me. It's a little,
of course.
It's a brief moment of it lasts, I don't know, or is it 3 minutes, 4 minutes? So it's not a sacrifice. And sometimes you enjoy doing it, but with a song like that we've done to death so many times, it is hard not to drift off while you're doing it or to become automatic.
Mm-hmm.
Because you just, it's like that with everything, you know, when you experience something, you take it in and you pay attention to what's happening. Then you experience and you like it and you want to do it again and you do it again and you go through the same. But you don't really experience the same. And after a while it fades away and you're not really capable of responding the way you are in a virginal way when it's new.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that with everything sensory. But then if you have to do it for very good reasons, because again out of respect for other people, then you find ways of waking up to it in a way, or maybe surprising yourself in either in ways that the public can partake in, or in quiet, silent little ways for yourself. And don't ask me what they are, because I don't know now, because they just happen.
You already slightly touched the backlash that came with Take On Me. Obviously it changed your life, the success of this particular song, and then your first album, which had one hit single after another. Was there a point where you thought this is going to be too big, too quick?
Well, what would be the concern? Because there are good reasons to be worried about a thing like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it may build too fast to carry its own weight in a way, and then you can't deal with it.
Right.
So it depends really on what you mean. But,
Could you like fully embrace the success you had?
I don't think I've ever been I don't think I've ever done that fully.
Why is that?
Not really knowing what that means. I mean, because it's a personal thing, and it depends also on how you view it. I don't think any of us in the band have been very good at celebrating. We are too much focusing on new challenges, on next thing to do, and there are too many things as well that didn't work out quite how you wanted it. For instance, so you always have some regrets that you carry with you. You feel that song should have been done a little more like this, or we should have done this to it. And that is typical. When you've been around for long enough, I think it's common to start to appreciate success more than in the early days, in the beginning, and for a while. You also have to find simple happiness in your everyday life, in what you do, and if that's not available for you, then you're really not in a good place. And I think that's one of the biggest problems for artists that make it big.
Was it hard back then to like keep your feet on the ground and not like get the hype too close?
You're not supposed to have your feet on the ground. You're supposed to lift off and cruise.
Okay.
So you to have your feet on the ground is
Get run over?
It's too firm of a position. So you need a better view, or a better overall view. But it's never been hard for me myself to know my place and to know the value of what I do. Other people may disagree and say that I'm not grounded well, but I am grounded well I feel that I am. There's a balance in things for me. I was never surprised by our success because I knew what we had. And I know, I understand these mechanisms and how I am triggered by it and how we are triggered by it. So success with the band was a given in my world. I knew it would happen. I didn't know exactly when, but I knew it was imminent. It was about to happen for a while. I never really ever doubted that it would happen on a global scale.
Now you're going to end it voluntarily?
We don't end it. We can't take away
Well,
what we've done.
speaking dramatically, sure. But, well, there's a farewell tour and then there's no
It's a
anymore.
celebration of 25 years, and it's the order of things. It is a decisive move to put things put things back to square one in a way, where you have a starting point for other things. Other things may be whatever. I don't have a particular agenda other than clearing the table, and that's really what it is. That's what we've decided to do. We just clear the table, and 25 years is we're doing it on a really good roll. It's been great with this album. Again, we've been here before. We've been a number of times, and to do it again now is not a given. We don't take that for granted. I've never taken anything for granted. So when I say that I knew AHA was going to happen, it doesn't mean I took it for granted. I understand why it happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I also know that we can do it again. But that doesn't mean that we will do it again. And there are other factors that need to kind of fall into place for things to happen. So it doesn't only depend on us. It depends on whether you have a good setup, a proper way to expose what you're doing in that grace period of time that you have when you have a record. Then there's a grace period within which really things need to fall into place and happen. As when you write a song, and it's not a good idea to sit on songs for too long, for instance, because there needs to be a momentum with things. You need to fertilize something in time to move on, to make something more happen with it. So to do this now is a very healthy move in my view. It's a strange feeling at the same time.
It has to be, because we're doing some math now. You have been in AHA exactly half of your life.
That's easy, because 50 split by 2 makes 25.
Yeah, I can do that even, yeah. Did you miss out on major things?
Did I? Of course. You take,
That you have to do now?
No, I'm not retiring.
Of course not.
I'm not retiring on any level, but AHA is calling it a day. But the 7 years when we were apart, where we weren't really calling it a day, we didn't stop back then. We just pulled the plug, I suppose, and we needed a break. We needed to do other things. That was 7 years, and they were very busy years for me, as I know they were for the other two.
Did you stay in contact during that time?
At that time, we did not stay much in contact, not because we didn't like each other, but because we had spent so much time on top of each other, inside each other's lives, that what we needed was not that. We needed to break free and just be let alone, really, or left alone.
I mean, looking back at these 25 years now, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Nothing. I don't look back. I don't have a habit of looking back. And I am also suffering from the fact that I'm being asked this so many times. So a lot of media wants to take a peek back, and so I'm being asked to do it often. But so I don't have any. I mean, my need for doing it is filled a long time ago. So it's not something I do. I am interested in what I'm doing now, and I'm getting ready for what we're doing tomorrow. But if you're asking for fond memories, it's packed with that. And it's, AHA doesn't go away even if we stop. Look at, take me for instance, lives a life completely on its own, and it doesn't care what we do.
Mm.
And there's a lot of other songs as well that are doing that. And what we do remains to be seen. But this is a good thing to do now. And we have a great tour starting. First, we're touring off the strength of this album, and then we are touring as a 25-year embracing of 25 years together as a-ha, which will be a big tour next year.
A-ha in one sentence?
Just a-ha. You don't need a sentence, just the word.
Very good. What do you see for yourself in the future? You said there's no master plan, obviously. Will you carry on playing music? Or take a break from that?
I don't think I can avoid being involved in music in different ways. But I don't think about that now because, again, we have so much work ahead for quite a while, and there are always projects that are interesting. There are a number of types of records that would be interesting to make. There are other artists that would be interesting to cooperate with, and there are plenty of them. Whether I do that is a different matter, I don't know. But there are other things I want to do. But we're not really essentially doing this because we need to do other things. We're doing it because it's the right thing for us now, as a-ha. It's like a cleansing thing that you need to do. Of course, when you realize that, one thing is to decide to do it, to actually stop. Another thing is to realize that you've done it and you've gone out with a press statement and you're making it for real, and you're receiving the response from everywhere, and it becomes obviously more real then. So it's a strange feeling, of course, as well. But it also feels right.
I'm looking to the very last concert, and I don't know if there isn't any sign of regret. Probably there is.
Of course. Of course, we're not shooting the beast in the neck. That's not the point. But it's about doing what feels right, what feels, and that's really what it is. It's necessary from a, there are other things that need focus as well, and who knows what's going to happen. What I will say though, it's not. We don't have a habit of coming with statements like this. It's not a PR thing.
Yes,
press in Norway has been speculating a little on that.
Okay.
It is for real. This is what we are doing. Otherwise, it wouldn't. No, I don't want to even discuss that.
Well, whatever comes up in your future, all the best for it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Morten.
Certainly.